Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Thursday, March 25th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabolsi. If you've been waiting and wondering when it will be your turn to get a coronavirus vaccine, we have some good news. As KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman tells us, a major change is being made over who's next in line.
Excited?
Very, very.
Starting April 1st, all Californians aged 50 and over will become eligible for vaccinations. Then on April 15th, it extends to everyone 16 and over.
So just a few weeks, there'll be no rules, no limitations as it relates to the ability to get a vaccine administered.
The announcement is coming earlier than expected, especially with recent vaccination supply problems. But the governor says vaccine makers, including Moderna, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson, are ahead of schedule.
Our ability to do more has always been constrained by supply, manufactured supply. We have confidence now the manufactured supply becoming available sooner than we had anticipated.
So much so that the governor made this announcement too.
Effective today, regardless of your age, regardless of your pre-existing condition, if someone comes in eligible under the existing rules, but with a family member, we will accommodate the family member, no questions asked.
Newsom says all vaccination sites will have discretion to do that, and it doesn't mean all locations in San Diego can accommodate family members right away. A county spokesperson says it will depend on supply, which has been slightly increasing, but only about 10% a week recently. Reacting to the eligibility expansion, Scripps Health CEO Chris Van Gorder says if there's sufficient supply, then it's a good idea. If not, he's worried about the frustration people will have who can't find appointments, saying in those cases, people are often angry at those delivering vaccines and not those making the rules.
I know folks are frustrated because it's very hard to get a first dose appointment right now. And so if the tiers are going to be expanding, then it is my hope the supply is going to be significantly expanding as well.
Opening up more vaccinations could get the state closer to its goal of delivering 4 million doses in hardest hit communities. County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher says once that happens, our county has a good chance of seeing more restrictions relaxed in the state's orange reopening tier.
The soonest it appears that it could technically happen would be April 6th, but there's no guarantee.
Newsom says new variants of the virus spreading in the state mean we cannot let our guard down.
This is not mission accomplished. We're not spiking the football. This is not time to take down your guard or literally, as is the case, take off your mask.
President Biden has also signed the Save Lives Act, which allows the VA to provide vaccinations to all veterans, their spouses, and caregivers. It's estimated there are more than 200,000 veterans in San Diego County alone. Their numbers are separate from the county ones, which are now showing more than 31% of San Diegans 16 and over have gotten at least one dose, while just under 20% are fully vaccinated. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
And if you want to find out more about when it's your turn and where to get your shot, head to kpbs.org. Just go to our homepage and then click on the Vaccines tab to find clinic locations as well as links to make an appointment. For the first time, President Biden faced the press for a formal news conference. While he sought to highlight the progress his administration has made on COVID-19, reporters pressed him on a number of other key issues, including immigration and gun reform. Karen Kaifa has more from Washington.
Just more than 9 weeks into his presidency, Joe Biden facing the press in his first news conference.
I want to give you a progress report to the nation.
The event happening later for Biden than it did for his 15 recent predecessors. The White House saying the president wanted to keep focus on his COVID-19 recovery agenda in his first weeks. On that topic, he announced a new vaccination target for the country.
We will, by my 100th day in office, have administered 200 million shots in people's arms. No other country in the world has even come close.
But in recent days, other urgent issues have demanded a spot on his agenda. In the wake of mass shootings in Georgia and in Boulder, Colorado, that took the lives of 18 people within a week, Biden was pressed for how he'll work with a sharply divided Congress to deliver on the gun control reform he's promised.
It's a matter of timing.
And similarly, about a legislative solution as the U.S. grapples with an influx of migrants, many of them unaccompanied children, at the southern border with Mexico, overwhelming detention centers amid the ongoing pandemic.
What we're doing now is attempting to rebuild the system that can accommodate what is happening today.
In addition to domestic policy issues, Biden also addressing a number of foreign policy challenges, including North Korea, China, and Russia. In Washington, Karen Kafa, KPBS News.
President Biden is also leaving the door open for U.S. troops to stay in Afghanistan through the end of the year. He said it will be difficult to meet the May 1st deadline for full American troop withdrawal that was laid out in a peace agreement between the Trump administration and the Taliban. A Marine Corps investigation found that a training accident off San Clemente Island that killed 9 service members could have been prevented. The report released today says the sinking of the amphibious assault vehicle last July was caused by human error and mechanical problems, as well as inadequate training and poor judgment by commanders. 3 commanders have been dismissed. Unaccompanied children who've made the trip to our southern border will start arriving at the San Diego Convention Center this weekend. Adults experiencing homelessness who've been staying there have now all been moved to other shelters in the city. Here's KPBS reporter John Carroll with more.
Hundreds of children up to 17 years old will soon be arriving at the convention center, probably as soon as this weekend.
And this is a humanitarian issue. These are children who have a legal right to be here. And I think we've all been shocked by the pictures of the conditions they're in CBP detention facilities.
The Biden administration says it's sending families back. But when it comes to children without their parents, the president made it clear today where he stands.
The idea that I'm going to say, which I would never do, that if an unaccompanied child ends up at the border, we're just going to let him starve to death and stay on the other side. No previous administration did that either, except Trump. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
The law says unaccompanied children are not supposed to be held in federal detention facilities for more than 72 hours. That's happening now, so the process of relocating them to more suitable facilities is urgent. Enter the convention center. Earlier this week, Supervisor Fletcher, along with San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria, announced that children, perhaps up to 1,400, will be welcomed to the center, but while here, they will not be allowed to leave the confines of the building. In his YouTube update on Wednesday, Supervisor Jim Desmond sounded a note of concern and resignation.
We can't sustain this on and on and on, month after month after month. This just can't continue to happen like this. But we are where we are.
As soon as children arrive, officials say efforts will get underway to send them to family members already in the U.S. We reached out to Convention Center Management for a comment. They referred us to the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, which will be overseeing the operation. No one got back to us. Both Mayor Gloria and Supervisor Fletcher say the cost of the operation will be borne by the federal government.
And the federal government's been clear this is their responsibility and they will pay the full cost associated for it, and I think that is appropriate.
The reason the convention center can serve as a temporary shelter is because no conventions are booked until August. John Carroll, KPBS News.
1 year ago, San Diego designated a handful of slow streets where car travel was restricted to encourage walking and biking during the pandemic. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen takes a look at what's left of the program.
It's quiet and peaceful and it feels like safe. Like if you make a mistake, it won't be like bad, like you won't get hit by a car or anything.
10-year-old Emma Zakowski says she rides her bike down Diamond Street in Pacific Beach at least every other day.
It's more like natural, you can just hear like the wind in the trees. And other places it's like cars like rushing by you. It's like, it feels like scary almost.
Last April, when the first COVID-19 lockdown was in full swing, San Diego city leaders sought to open up streets for people to recreate safely. The city put up sandwich boards, noting the streets were closed to through traffic, but open for pedestrians and cyclists. But in recent months, the city has quietly removed all the slow streets except Diamond. When Katie Matchett, president of the nonprofit Beautiful PB, heard the city was considering removing the slow street here, she began organizing neighbors to support it.
This is a place people come and they get to interact with their neighbors and they get to meet people and they get to have this sense of community, and that's important at all times, regardless of whether or not we're in the middle of a pandemic.
The Slow Streets program has faced backlash from some residents and businesses because of disruptions to parking and traffic. The city would not commit to making the Slow Street permanent, but said it would seek community input before making a final decision. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
The San Diego Union High School District is expanding in-person learning. It's currently running a hybrid model where students can attend in person 2 days a week, but starting April 12th, that will now increase to 4 days. The board also decided that for the 21-22 school year, in person will be 5 days.
That my child needs to be in school more and fully. She's missed out on a year, and there are a lot of kids out there that share that concern.
Carlsbad Unified has also approved middle and high school students to return 5 days a week starting March 29th. Vista Unified voted to open secondary schools on April 5th for families who want students on campus 5 days a week. We're tracking the reopening of campuses across San Diego County. Just go to kpbs.org and then click on the Tracking COVID-19 tab, then the Schools tab, and you'll find a searchable database updated every week so you can see your school's plan. As spring breakers hit San Diego beaches and the Bay, local lifeguards and police are putting out some warnings to try to keep people safe. KPBS reporter Melissa May has the story.
San Diego has more than 40 miles of oceanfront and bay shoreline for lifeguards and police to patrol. But Lifeguard Chief James Gartland has a warning for beachgoers.
I mean, San Diego beaches are beautiful, the water looks nice, the sunsets, all of that. But there are a lot of hazards at the local beaches, so you just have to be aware.
Spring break in San Diego means increased crowds and more activity in the water. San Diego Police Lieutenant Rick Aguilar says his department will have patrols on the water and on land to provide assistance to lifeguards.
We just want to make sure that everyone comes out here, they're safe, follow all the safety rules.
Many visitors enjoy renting water vessels during their visit to the beach, but officials warn potential renters to make sure the rental company is legal.
In all those brick and mortar businesses, those vessels are well maintained, they're safe, there's insurance, they provide some instructions.
And one more warning for boaters.
Do not drink and boat.
Please do not operate a vessel while you're under the influence.
Authorities also encourage spring breakers to wear a mask and to social distance. Melissa May, KPBS News.
Opening day is 1 week away, and if you're a Padres season ticket holder, you have the best chance to see the team play in person at Petco Park. Because the county is in the red tier, the Padres can only accommodate 25% capacity, which means there's a limited amount of tickets available. Fans also have to sit in pods of no more than 6 seats that are at least 6 feet apart. So right now, the Padres are not selling tickets to the general public. Today, the blue level ticket holders got their chance to log on and try to snag the games they want.
It's looking likely that we will only have enough tickets available for our members, and maybe not even all of our members for the first 2 months.
Tickets on websites like StubHub are selling at a premium. The cheapest seats online for opening day are going for $189. For Upper Pavilion, with the most expensive going for more than $2,000 behind home plate. Once the county moves into a less restrictive tier, the Padres can then increase capacity and release more tickets.
We're talking a few showers out there as we head through tonight, so something to watch out for. And those gusty winds, they continue into this evening. The good news is, stepping into the weekend, things get quieter for us. So, again, changes going on. Still have some of those wind advisories in place through some of the mountains and our interior locations. It's all because of that very strong westerly or southwesterly wind that continues to fuel some of the clouds and, hey, maybe even a few showers. Could even be a few snowflakes. Mount Laguna 30 for the low. Oceanside, maybe a couple sprinkles as we hit 47 for the low. Futurecast brings us with time here into the evening hours where there are, again, a few of those showers. A lot of it the higher elevations, not a ton of moisture out there. just some of those showers that could be enough to dampen the roads and the streets, so be cautious into tomorrow morning. A lot of that activity fades away, but we still have the clouds. And we still have the chill through the interior. So the winds will eventually be dying down. It does take a little bit of time, but I think we start to get into a quieter pattern for tomorrow. Still keeping some of the clouds. I notice here the icons still show a few showers. Again, a lot of that is that morning threat. Then things will quiet down as we go into the evening hours. Escondido, 63 for your high tomorrow. San Diego coming in at 64. Again, couple morning sprinkles out there. Not a lot of activity. We get brighter through the afternoon. Things start to quiet down, and that's going to be a quieter trend into the weekend. The weekend starts off with the temperatures starting to rebound, and we are going to have a warm, dry setup as we head through the weekend. So again, towards the coast, still some showers out there, mostly in the morning hours. Then after that, we're looking drier for the days to come, and warming up into Sunday where we hit the mid-70s. Inland, we could actually hit the mid-80s on Sunday. Again, that's after the cooler trend tomorrow in the mid-60s. And for the mountains, we'll be in the upper 30s tomorrow. Maybe a few snowflakes mixing in early before we trend towards the mid-50s later on. The deserts climbing their way towards the 90s by the time we head into early next week. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Melissa Constanzer.
Pfizer is now testing its coronavirus vaccine on children under 12. At least 2 children have received an initial shot, and 114 will be enrolled in the 5 to 11 age group. Pfizer is determining the appropriate dose for them before moving to younger children. Like adults, children will get 2 doses 21 days apart. Pfizer has already evaluated the vaccine in more than 2,200 kids aged 12 and 15. And a new study has found COVID-19 vaccines are effective and safe on pregnant and lactating women. Researchers in Massachusetts looked at 131 women who received the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine. Researchers found those who were pregnant or lactating had about the same vaccine-induced antibody levels. They also passed on protective antibodies to their newborns, although it's unclear how long that lasts. Pregnant women in San Diego County are currently eligible for the vaccine. A new analysis of COVID-19 figures shows the number of cases, deaths, and hospitalizations are dropping the fastest for some of the most vulnerable Americans. Mandy Gaither breaks down the data.
When it comes to COVID-19, they're some of the most at-risk Americans. But a new CNN analysis of CDC data shows those 65 and older are now seeing the largest decline in COVID-19 case rates, hospitalizations, and death rates out of any other age group. The data comes as the U.S. passes a milestone this week.
70% of Americans age 65 and over have now received at least 1 shot.
The latest CDC numbers show weekly hospitalizations among that demographic dropped 83% over 9 weeks between early January and mid-March, and death rates were about 96% lower.
We intend to keep up this progress until all Americans are vaccinated.
While the average number of new daily COVID-19 cases climbed slightly across the U.S., 2 new papers published in the New England Journal of Medicine are adding to a growing body of research showing COVID-19 vaccines are extremely effective in preventing infection in the community.
Every day, 2.5 to 3 million people get vaccinated. So every day we get closer and closer to that extraordinary degree of effectiveness which we're seeing at the community level. And at the end of the day, that is what it is that is going to end this pandemic in this country.
Now, the next phase of getting shots in the arms of more Americans, at least 5 states have expanded coronavirus vaccine eligibility to anyone 16 and older, and at least 20 more plan to do the same by the end of April. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Award-winning actress Jessica Walters has died. She starred in many movies and TV shows such as Arrested Development, The Streets of San Francisco, and Amy Prentice, for which she won an Emmy. Walters also appeared on Broadway. She died at her New York City home. She was 80 years old.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, President Biden faces questions on immigration and voting rights as he doubles the vaccine goal. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Lawmakers are blasting the three largest big tech CEOs for allowing hate speech and disinformation to continue to thrive on their social media platforms. Testifying virtually today, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg deflected criticism that social media platforms like his did not do enough.
We did our part to secure the integrity of the election. And then, on January 6th, President Trump gave a speech rejecting the results and calling on people to fight.
Ahead of today's congressional hearing, an advocacy group displayed life-size cutouts of the CEOs of Facebook, Google, and Twitter, depicting them as Capitol insurrectionists. Lawmakers are looking at new legislation to tighten social media platforms, and many have not been happy with the responses that they're getting. Cruise ships won't be sailing anytime soon. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention turned down a cruise industry request to lift its no-sail order. The association will now look to the Biden administration to try to get it lifted by early July. That's in line with the president's forecast for when the U.S. will be closer to normal. The CDC said returning to passenger cruising is a phased approach to manage the risk of spreading coronavirus. The CDC is still advising against travel over the spring and summer, but after more than a year of the pandemic, many are eager to take a vacation. The TSA says it has screened more than 1 million people for two straight weeks. The industry group Airlines for America says planes are about 71% full on average. At the lowest point during the pandemic, only 1 in every 10 seats were occupied. Mandy Gaither has what you need to know if you plan to travel in 2021.
As more vaccines become available, more Americans are expected to travel.
People are going to venture out.
The CDC still recommends avoiding non-essential travel, but if you do take a trip, AAA's Jeanette McGee says to ask questions before booking.
If you're planning vacations at a hotel and are excited to use the pool may or may not be open. Hotel restaurants may or may not be open, as well as health facilities.
Hotels may also have new protocols like virtual check-in, and if flying,
not all the in-flight amenities are going to be available. So are food and beverages available for you? That's something you need to contact the airlines to understand.
AAA says road trips are always popular over the spring and summer. The agency expects this year to be no different.
It gives you the convenience of your own car, you decide who you're traveling with, where you're going, and when you're stopping.
But beware, AAA says gas prices are climbing and may continue to be through the summer.
Today's national average is $2.87. It's the most expensive price we've seen since actually May of 2019.
And if you do venture out, AAA says it's a good time to have a travel agent.
They can help you navigate travel insurance if those are options for you. They can help you understand what's open and what's not, both domestically and internationally.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The CDC recommends taking a viral COVID-19 test 1 to 3 days before a trip. The agency also advises you to get tested again 3 to 5 days after you return and self-quarantine for 7 days. Face masks and gloves are meant to keep us safe from COVID-19, but carelessly discarded items of personal protective equipment are creating a worldwide pollution problem. In Northern California, environmental groups are trying to do something about it. Volunteers are recorded what they pick up to gauge what might end up in the ocean, including disposable masks, latex gloves, and disinfecting wipes.
We're finding like nearly 300 masks and gloves every month. Right, on average, and that's just in what people are recording, and so the problem is horrible. They're all made of plastic. There's plastic in them.
If you're going to throw away your mask, cut the loops on the sides so they don't become a threat to smaller animals and birds. Speaking of birds, a rehabilitated barn owl was released back into the wild last night at Coronado's Spreckles Park. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayers says the animal was brought to the San Diego Humane Society in January of this year to regain its strength.
The female barn owl was found by 2 public service employees in the city of Coronado back on January 25, 2021, when they noticed it was struggling to fly in the cold and rain. It was then brought to San Diego Humane Society's Pilar and Chuck Body Wildlife Center by Coronado Police Services officer Christina Wozniak. But who helped bring the animal back to health? That would be Project Wildlife's Director of Wildlife Medicine, John Enyart.
Barn owls tend to have a pretty loud
avoidance response. They tend to screech pretty loudly, and they're pretty well known for that. She did not do that, which is rather unusual for them. And then her plumage was just wet. So beyond that, we didn't find any major concerns. So we were hopeful that we could get her back out to her home.
While at the Body Wildlife Center, Project Wildlife's medical team provided the injured barn owl with heat support, fluids, and nutrition. Veterinarians performed radiographs and blood tests to ensure all levels were normal. The owl was also sent to satellite care to gain flight strength in an aviary. After nearly 2 months, the barn owl could self-feed and was strong enough to fly again.
She got some fluids by injection, and then was put into an enclosure that just helped her stay quiet and calm. And then, within a day or two, we realized that, at that point, she was ready to go out to the aviary because there wasn't really much slowing her down.
The owl was released at Spreckles Park, as the location is within a 1-mile radius from where the animal was originally found, at a warehouse near Coronado Beach. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
And here's another look at today's top story. Coronavirus vaccine eligibility is expanding across California. 1 week from today, anyone 50 years and over can get their shot. And then on April 15th, it will open up to anyone over the age of 16. Governor Newsom says right now the state gets about 1.8 million vaccine doses per week. That number is expected to go up to 3 million by mid-April. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.